Welcome back, students. School is back in session. Why? Because it's a brand new year and a brand new season. So welcome everybody to Economics 9.2 at Ekko University, where we talk about everything Ekko for this first patch of League of Legends. Oh look guys, Merlinamicon plus 2 AP from Runes and Absolute Focus are here and welcome us back to school. Yay!
No, we are sorry, Echoes. It's time for us to part ways as we were nerds.
No, come back. Don't walk away, no.
Don't blink! All in! Just my style.
Welcome class to Economics 9.2 at Ekko University. That's right, class is back in session. So we're going to talk about Ekko's best runes, best builds, the must bans, and then Ekko's patch rating for patch 9.2. And just to keep you guys informed, as I will tell you throughout the entire video, Merlinamicon got a 10 AP nerf, your runes for AP got a 2 AP nerf, and Absolute Focus got a 10 AP nerf, and the MR runes, the flex stats, got a plus 2 MR buff. So AP looks like it's going to be hit pretty hard this patch, so let's keep that in mind, but let's get into the runes. Alright guys, let's talk about the best Ekko rune page for patch 9.2, the first patch of League of Legends Season 9. And we do have some changes to the secondary tree, but let's talk about the primary one, which is Domination. So you're going to go Electrocute, Sudden Impact, Eyeball Collection, Ravenous Hunter. Why? Electrocute is by far the best keystone for Ekko, does the most damage, has a low cooldown, scales well. It's just, I talked about it in my Massive Ekko guide. Electrocute is just the best out of all the options for Ekko. Sudden Impact is the best out of these three for Ekko. You could consider going Taste the Blood. Like, you could go Cheap Shot, you could go Taste the Blood, but you got to ask yourself, what am I sacrificing to go Taste the Blood or Cheap Shot? You're sacrificing a lot of Magic Pen. 6 Magic Pen over 5 seconds works for all your abilities, which means all your abilities that do damage will get extra Magic Pen, which means you do more damage than these two combined. So that's why you would go Sudden Impact. Eyeball Collection, you get free AP stats for getting kills, assists, and killing wards. You could go Ghost Poro, but Ghost Poro requires more micromanagement, which I don't feel like doing. But Ghost Poro is pretty good. I just like the free set of Eyeball Collection. Do nothing to play the game, get AP. And Ravenous Hunter basically gives you Gunblade healing in a rune. So that's where we go, Ravenous Hunter. And here for the Sorcery Tree, this is where it gets tricky because Absolute Focus will get nerfed by 10 AP. So now it's pretty weak considering that you have to stay above 70% HP and you lose 10 AP. So 10 AP is actually a lot, especially for Ekko. So you may want to think about where do you want to allocate your resources instead of Absolute Focus. So let me just give you a brief rundown of these sorcery runes. So you want to go Nullifying Orb versus heavy AP matchups like LeBlanc and Kassadin, or maybe like Fizz. Any like high damage AP champion, you might want to go Nullifying Orb, but you don't have to. It just as a precaution. I usually go Mana Flow Ban. Why? Because Mana Flow Ban allows me to basically get a free sheen of mana, 250 mana, by like 7 minutes. And I basically have unlimited mana for the entire game because it's like a free Doran's Ring passive that gets stronger the less mana you have. That's why I like Mana Flow Ban. But now here, I usually go Absolute Focus, but now that Absolute Focus got nerfed, I'm debating what to go next. Do I go Gathering Storm? Because Gathering Storm is good for scaling and is guaranteed AP, but I gotta wait, 20 minutes to get the AP. But at 20 minutes, there's no point of having Absolute Focus when at 20 minutes you get 24 AP, and this only gives you potentially 30, but you're not going to be level 18 at 20 minutes. So I feel like Gathering Storm is sort of better than Absolute Focus in the mid game now. So you could go Gathering Storm. I'm also thinking about going Transcendence. Why Transcendence? Because Transcendence gives you that CDR, which is always good on Ekko, but on top of that, we'll talk about a build synergy. You may want to go over 40% CDR now on Ekko, so Transcendence gives you 2 ability power per CDR. So if you have 50% CDR, when it's capped at 40, that means you're going to get, instead of that 10% CDR, you're going to get 20 AP. So that's actually giving you a lot of AP if you have more than 40% CDR. So I'm considering going Transcendence, and if I don't want to go Mana Flow Ban, I'll probably go Gathering Storm. So my 2 rune pages will be this Domination over here, and then I'll go Transcendence Gathering Storm, or Transcendence Mana Flow Ban. And if it's a really hard lane, then possibly Nullifying Orb. So you can interchange these any way you like, but I feel like Mana Flow Ban, I personally really like Mana Flow Ban, But I feel like Transcendence might work really well with the new build you're gonna have to do with Ekko. So we'll talk about that later. But I'm gonna test out this rune page, especially when 9.2 comes out. And like obviously we need to like test Ekko's new damage, Ekko's new playstyle in 9.2. But I think this will work pretty well. Manifold Band Transcendence and possibly Transcendence Gathering Storm. If not, Manifold Band Gathering Storm. So any one of these combos you could do, but I'm probably gonna try this one at the beginning. But here we have the last part, which is your flex stats. You're just gonna go that. HP, if the enemy team has AD and MR, AD and AP. If they have heavy armor, you're going to go armor. If they have heavy MR, you're gonna go MR. If you're versing a super heavy magic matchup like LeBlanc, maybe go double MR, because now these are gonna give you +2 more. So instead of +6, you're gonna get +8, which is a lot more MR. And on top of that, you only get 9 here, 9 here. So you will lose another 2 AP from runes. So like I was saying, you're losing 10 AP here late game. You're losing 2 AP here. You're gonna lose even more AP in your new build. So tricky rune page for now for Ekko. We're gonna experiment with this, and we'll find out how it works during 9.2. Alright guys, so let's talk about the best builds for Ekko in patch 9.2. And they're a little bit different than before because Morellonomicon did get nerfed, so we gotta think about new ideas. And on top of that, Absolute Focus got nerfed, and your Flex Runes got nerfed by 2 AP. So Ekko overall loses 22 AP, so we gotta get that 22 AP back somehow and figure it out. But usually you go Corrupting Potion, double Dark Seals, Proto Belt, and then Boots of Choice. So that's basically the start for basically any game on Ekko. But then you go Lichbane. Lichbane is usually the standard second item on Ekko. It's really strong, really good, gives you the mobility, gives you mana, gives you CDR, gives you damage, everything you want on Ekko. But now the third item. Usually, if the game is normal, I'm not super fed. If I'm super fed, I usually go Death Cap. So if you're super fed, you go Death Cap, right? Super fed, go Death Cap. But now I usually went Morellonomicon, but now Morellonomicon is nerfed by 10 AP, so I'm paying 3,000 gold for 10 less AP, which doesn't seem too nice for me, especially since my other runes and damage and AP got nerfed already. So I think that Morellonomicon will be more of a situational item, like when you're versing a Vlad or a Soraka or like a healing champion. Rushing Morellonomicon may still be decent, but you do lose 10 AP, so I'm trying to figure out if there could be something better than going Morellonomicon. That being said, for your third item, it could be Death Cap if you're super ahead, right? It could be Morellonomicon if they have healing. It could be Zanya's, because Zanya's actually a really good item. Now it actually gives you more AP than Morellonomicon. Huh, that's funny. And also gives you a really strong passive, and it gives you CDR and armor. So if the enemy team has like hard engages and a lot of strong AD champions, you may want to go Zanya's. But Zanya's is also a good pick even if they don't have AD, because of its activatable effect, which is really good. But we'll think about that. Another item you could go is actually Void Staff. If the enemy team already has a lot of magic resist, then I feel like Void Staff will be just a better solution than Morellonomicon, because Morellonomicon is basically for anti-healing, whereas Void Staff does give you a lot more magic pen than Morellonomicon. Gives you the same AP now, but a lot more magic pen. So if they have a lot of MR, then you might want to go Void Staff. But now, here's a special one. Here's a tricky one. Here's a tricky one, guys. Here's a tricky one. I think that maybe Nashor's Tooth. Oh yeah, let's relax. I think that Nashor's Tooth may potentially be a good third item. Why? Because it gives you 80 AP also, which is the most you could get here now, unless you go Death Cap. You could potentially go Rylai's. But Rylai's just gives you flat stats. It's really cheap. It gives you 90 AP, but it gives you an unnecessary slow. It's pretty decent, but it doesn't really give you anything special. Just flat stats. So you could go Rylai's, but it's like eh. But other than Rylai's, Nashor's will give you the most. 70, 75, 70. And Nashor's gives you 80. On top of that, Nashor's gives you 20% CDR, which has 40% CDR, which means plus 10 CDR from Transcendence. You're getting an extra 20 AP on Nashor's, which means Nashor's will actually give you 100 AP, which is really good. You'll get 100 AP basically for building Nashor's if you build Proto-Build, Lichbane, Nashor's, plus Transcendence, which is really good. And on top of that, It gives you that attack speed that a lot of people like, and on hit. Downside is that you lose the 300 HP from Morellonomicon, but then again, you lose that 300 HP if you build Death Cap, if you build Void Staff, if you build Zanya's. So I feel like Gnasher's Tooth may be potentially a pretty good item. So if you're looking at what to build third item, you have a lot of choices here, and we'll figure out which one's the best. You have these choices. You have Rylai's, Morellonomicon, Zanya's, Gnasher's, Void Staff, Death Cap. Those are your choices for third item. I'm gonna be testing out Gnasher's Tooth because it seems like a juicy new thing that only like Ekko, not a lot of champions can build Gnasher's Tooth. Ekko could do it, so we'll test that out. But if Gnasher's Tooth does not work, then Zanya's and Death Cap will be solid options. Void Staff and Morello will be very situational depending on how the healing, MR. And then Rylai's may just be like, I don't know, maybe it's sleeper OP because it's really cheap and gives you 90 AP, but only gives you flat stats, whereas everything else gives you like nice passives or activatables. So yeah, so that's like the third item. But when we go from here, if you build one of these items here, you will build the other ones here. So if I go Gnasher's, I'll probably go Death Cap. If not, I'll go Zanya's. If I need a Magic Pen, I'll go Void Staff. If they have healing now, I'll go Morellonomicon. So after this point, it's up to you to make a conscious decision on what item you need next. These are all items that you'll build. Look, you have what? You have 1, 2, 3. You have 3 more item slots. It'll probably be one of these items here. So pick which one you think is the best. Personally, I'm gonna try Gnasher's, probably Void Staff, Death Cap. If not Death Cap, then probably Zanya's Void Staff. Zanya's will actually be 95 AP with Transcendence. If I don't need Magic Pen, because no one builds MR, if they don't build MR, I'll go Death Cap, Zanya, something like this. But yeah, any of these combinations is up to you to decide, depending on the game situation. You may also want to throw in a GA. Ooh. You may also want to throw in a GA. I like GA sometimes instead of Zanya's, because it's just a free second life. Obviously, Magi is for scaling. Always buy a potion if you're... Always buy a potion late game. And then you can build Iceborne Gauntlet instead of Lichbane for extra armor, which is full AD team comps. Like go Tabbies, armor, Iceborne Gauntlet plus armor runes. It'll be pretty tanky. And then usually Banshee's Veil. I don't usually go Banshee's Veil. I don't think it's that worth it, but if you really need to, it could be situational also. Leandri's Torment. I don't see tanks coming back for a while, so maybe hold off on Leandri's Torment. And Luden's Ekko is here. It could be a starting item, but I prefer Protobelt. So these are basically the items you're going to build. It's up to you to decide what you want after your third item. But yeah, that's the builds with Ekko for this patch. Alright guys, let's talk about the best bans for Ekko in patch 9.2. We got mid lane on the top and every other lane on the bottom. So number one, we got in the mid lane, we want to ban LeBlanc, because LeBlanc is just a really annoying matchup for Ekko. She's super strong. And she doesn't really get affected by the AP nerfs because she just one-shots you regardless of how much AP she has. Cassian is still Cassian is getting an armor nerf. So if you're someone who plays Talon or like a Zed or like an AD, a Yasuo, maybe a Aurelia mid. If you're someone who plays an AD champion in the mid lane, Cassian's getting a huge armor nerf in the early game. So he might start with 19 armor. For example, Ekko starts with like 30 armor. Cassian will start with 19 armor. So if you play like Zed or like Talon, obviously we're Ekko one tricks here, obviously. But yeah, Cassian got nerfed for AD champions, but for AP, it's still the same. Lissandra Aftershock is just broken. Yes, she gets a little bit weaker because Morellonomicon got nerfed. And obviously, like all the AP champions got a little bit nerfed, but Aftershock is still Aftershock. And she's point and click CC, basically. Galio is actually getting nerfed. His Q is getting nerfed this patch. But I feel like Galio is strong because of Aftershock, not because of his like Q. So I feel like Galio will still be pretty annoying. He might not be as much. He might not do as much burst as he did last patch, but he'll still be super annoying with Aftershock. And then I put Silas in here as the last bit because Silas will be coming out, I'm pretty sure, during patch 9.2, and you do not want first-time Silases on your team during your promos for season 9. So that's why it's there. Now, quickly for the bottom, we have Fiora and Jax. Those are the two biggest Ekko counters. Vayne is becoming a really strong 1v1er in any lane, actually. So that's actually pretty crazy. Vayne is kind of annoying. So you may want to ban that 80 carry. I personally have problems with Kha'Zix. Kha'Zix for some reason just 1v9s every game. He's on the enemy team. And Riven is just another bruiser that, like Fiora and Jax, that Ekko just struggles against. So I've been seeing Riven's a lot more, so that's why I decided to ban her. But yeah, those are the bans for this patch. And yeah, let's get into Ekko's patch rating. So for this patch, I'm going to give Ekko a B. Why a B? Because Ekko is getting a 22 AP nerf. MR is getting buffed on runes a little bit too, so that makes the 22 AP nerf even like greater. We don't know what the best build with Ekko is yet because there's a lot of options, a lot of different paths, so we don't know what's gonna be a win and what's not gonna be a win. Bruisers are still pretty strong. Aurelia is getting nerfed, but bruisers are still, like Jax, all those champions are still pretty strong. Mages are still gonna be strong. They're gonna be a little bit weaker, but so is Ekko. So if you play Ekko into a mage, there won't really be a difference. On top of that, people will probably still play Lissandra and Galio with Aftershock. Aftershock is still super broken on those champions, and they do have a lot of CCs. That's really annoying for Ekko. So with all that in mind, I feel like putting Ekko in a B means that he's pretty decent. He's far from being the best, but he's also far from being the worst. We'll see how this season plays out, the start of the season. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Ekkonomics, and I'll see you guys in the next one.